All right, so we're going to start to work on our features and tabs, but before we do that, I realized that when we did our media query in this input CSS, we put a min width of 1020, which if we look at our config, 1020 is the size of the large breakpoint. But I just remembered that we have a screen function that we can use, and we can just put in the size. So that way, if we were to come and change this, then it wouldn't matter. We wouldn't have to also change this. So let's try that out. So we're going to say media and then screen. And then instead of putting this in here, let's just do LG. So let's see if that works. Okay, so it's not showing on small screens. Let's keep going. And there we go. We hit large and it displays. All right, so that's using the screen function. If I wanted to come in at the medium breakpoint, stretch it out, and now it's on the medium. But I don't want that. I want it to be on the large. And it just, I mean, you can have it how I just did it. Just put the number right in there. But if you were to change the size of the large breakpoint, then you would also have to change it there. So it's just better practice. All right, so let's come back to our index.html, and we're going to go under the section. And first we'll have our features heading, which is just going to be the text. And then down here we'll have the features, let's say features tabs. So for the heading, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let's go to the heading, and we'll do section. I'm going to give this the ID of features though, because this is where I want the menu to go when I click on it, when I click on the features item. So this right here, just the heading and then the paragraph. So let's add in, we're going to have a container for this though, because we don't want it, for instance, we don't want it to stretch all the way across. So we'll add a container, and let's do MX auto. Margin top, we'll do 16, and on the x-axis padding, we'll do 6. And also on medium screens, I'm going to remove the MX auto with MX0. And we'll have our H2. We'll do a margin bottom 6 to push things down, or push the paragraph down. And then the text size, we're going to do 4XL. The font weight is going to be semi-bold. And the text will be aligned. The text will be aligned to the center, and that's going to say features. All right, so let's save that. There we go. Underneath that H2, we'll have a paragraph, and we want it to stretch. Let's do a max width of medium and MX auto and text center, and then the color, we're going to do text dash grayish blue. Okay, and then I'm just going to grab the text real quick. Save that, and there we go. So pretty easy. And then for the tabs, we're going to create a new section, and I'm going to give it an ID of tabs. All right, now we will have some custom classes in here because we need to grab onto it in the JavaScript so that we can switch them. So let's first put a tabs container. So this just wraps around everything, and we'll give a class of container. Let's make it position relative, and margin on the X will be auto. Margin on the Y will be 6. Margin bottom will do 32. And margin top will do 12. And padding on the X will do 6. So that's the main tabs container. Then we're going to have a background, just like we did in the hero, how we have this. We'll also have down here in the tabs area. So I'm going to add a class for that right here. And I'm going to call it bg-tabs. And nothing's going to go in it. We're just going to add some custom styling. And we might as well just do that now, just to get it over with. So let's come over here and go into input CSS. And again, we only want it on large screens, so we're going to stay within this media query. And in fact, I'm just going to copy this. We'll just copy this down, and let's change it to bg-tabs. And then the width is still going to be 2000. The height will be 300. This time we want to go from the right, and we're going to go 60%. Okay, and then as far as these, we want to do absolute, but then we want to do rounded on the right side because this is coming in from the left. So we want the right rounded. And then let's say from the top, we'll do 60 from the top in the same background color. So let's save that. And when this is on larger screens are up, we're going to see that background image. All right, cool. So next thing we want to do after that BG tabs, we're going to have the container, the flex container for the tabs. So let's say tabs flex container, because there's 3, right? So if we look at this, there's 3, and they're going to be a column on small screens and then a row on large screens. And we have like the borders and stuff like that. So, or that's on each item, but we want to make this flex call by default, and we're going to justify center, and let's do a max width of extra large and MX auto, and margin bottom we'll do 6, and then we want a border bottom, and then on medium screens we're going to do between the items on the X axis, we're going to do 10. And of course, on medium screens, we want to do a flex row. And I'm also going to add a class of tabs. Actually, no, we don't need a class on this. We just need it on each individual one, I believe. All right, so that's the flex container. Now we have the first tab, so tab 1, which is going to be this simple bookmarking. And right now we're just doing the tabs. We're not doing the panels, okay? So these are the panels that the tabs reference. We're just sticking with the tabs right this second. So let's we'll do flex, and let's say justify dash flex dot justify dash center, and then let's do text center. And text gray, we'll do 600 for the color. Let's close that up. And then let's do a border. So border bottom. For medium screens, we're not gonna have that border though, right? We only want these borders, these light gray borders on columns on smaller screens. So on medium, let's say border dash bottom dash 0. Okay, and then let's say on hover, we want the text to be soft red. Okay, and then I'm also going to add a custom class of tab, and that's going to go on all of these. Also on medium screens, we want it to take up 1/3 because there's going to be 3 across. So medium screens, we want width to be 1/3. And then in here, we're going to have another div that wraps the text. We're going to give it some padding on the y-axis, and then we're going to have a data target on this. We're also going to have a border when it's active, but yeah, let's do that because the first one is always going to be active, so we want to have this red border underneath. So that will be 4. We'll do 4 width. So border dash B, so border bottom, and then 4, and then the color, so border dash, the color will be soft red. Okay, and then also on this div, I'm going to add a data target attribute because we need to know which panel to load when we click on the tab. So we're going to set this to panel dash 1. All right. Yeah, and let's also put it on that data target. Let's put it on this div as well. So data dash target is going to equal panel dash 1. Okay, and then this text will go in here for the first tab, which is simple bookmarking. And let's see what that looks like. All right, cool. So now we're going to copy. Let's copy tab 1 and go right under it, paste that in. And the next one is what? Speedy searching. So let's change that to speedy searching. And we don't want to have this right here, the border B4 or soft red on this, because that's not selected. The first one is always going to be the one that's selected. Okay. So let's see. Actually, the hover though, no, hover will just have the text, right? We don't have the border on hover. You could do that if you want. But now I'm going to take this second one. This is tab 2. I'm going to copy that. And let's change that to tab 3. And then this one is going to be easy sharing. So we'll change that to easy sharing. And let's save. Okay, let's make this wider, see how it looks. Awesome. So with our JavaScript, we're going to have to add the class for the border on whichever one is active as well. So now we need to do the panels, which are going to be